Why does counting cards work for blackjack but not other games? Other games in casinos use dice or a roulette table, or they reshuffle the deck between hands. That means every game is independent. One game does not influence the next. If you roll dice and get a 3, it has no effect on the probability distribution of the next roll. If a spin on roulette gets a black 15, it has no effect on the probability distribution of the next spin. And when you reshuffle a deck, a previous hand has no effect on the next. So all these games have independence from one game to the next. What's different about blackjack? So blackjack has dependence. They don't reshuffle the deck between each hand. That means whatever cards are played in one game does affect the next game. And we can use this to our advantage. So if we have a way of tracking what's been played, we can start seeing when the probability is in our favor or against us. And when it's in our favor, we can take advantage of that. The dealer has fixed behavior they must follow. If their hand is less than or equal to 16, they must hit. If it's greater than or equal to 17, they must stand. They don't get to change their behavior. This required dealer behavior is part of why counting cards works. These are all the possible cards in a deck. Suit doesn't matter in blackjack, so we're just looking at the values of the cards. Due to this required dealer behavior, the dealer wants more smaller cards in the deck, and they want less of the large cards. Since we're competing against the dealer, we're the exact opposite. Players like the large cards and dislike the small cards. And these middle cards don't do much, so we can ignore them. There's only a finite number of these cards to be dealt. So for each of these smaller cards being dealt, the probability distribution of future hands is becoming better for the player. So we give it a value of +1. So for each of these larger cards that's dealt, that means the probability distribution of future hands is now going to the dealer's advantage. So we give them a score of -1. So as cards get dealt, you're going to keep track of the +1s and -1s, and you're going to keep a running count. If a higher proportion of smaller cards is played than higher cards, you're going to start noticing a positive running count. And vice versa, if a lot more larger cards are played, you're going to notice a negative running count. Positive running count is better for the player, and a negative running count is better for the dealer. The running count isn't enough to make good decisions. If there are a lot of cards remaining to be dealt, then the running count isn't as strong as if there were fewer cards remaining to be dealt. So we make an adjustment with a thing called the true count. We take our running count and we divide by the number of remaining decks. As you're playing, the number of remaining decks is visible to you, so you can make estimates on this. Once we have a value for the true count, we can start changing our behavior to take advantage of this information we now know. If the true count that we calculated before is less than or equal to 2, you keep betting your minimum bets. But if the true count is greater than 2, now you want to change your bet to take advantage of the probability swinging in your favor. The way to calculate your bet is you do the true count -1, and you multiply that by your minimum bet. And that extra money we're betting is now to take advantage of the probability swinging in our favor. You can do more than just change your bets when things swing in your favor. You can also change your basic strategy. Typically, when you have a 16 and the dealer's showing a 7, you would hit. If you know there's a lot of high cards remaining in the deck to be dealt, you might actually stand in this scenario. And there's a lot more examples of this. I hope this was fun. You guys are awesome.